So without further ado, I'd like to hand over Cris Beswick, everybody.
Good afternoon. We'll try that one again. Good afternoon. That's better. Fantastic. So, a real privilege. Thanks to Pete for the introduction. It does go downhill from here. But a real privilege to do the first keynote and the first talk for you guys today. So, as Pete said, I spend my life now with big organizations, helping them try and build intrapreneurship, drive entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship across their organizations, build innovation as a capability that really genuinely differentiates them from their competitors. And I want to share with you today just some of the things that I think you as leaders of your organizations can do to really drive intrapreneurship and drive and build innovation across your organizations. I want to ask you a real fundamental question today. And as an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur, and I know I don't look this old, but I've been an entrepreneur for about 20 years now. And that is purely down to moisturizing. But seriously, what drives entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs for that matter, is a real belief that we can do more and we can do better, and there's new and different and better ways of doing things. You know, as entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, we genuinely believe that innovation will help build organizations that genuinely do amazing things. So one of the things I want you to consider over the next few days is when you learn from not just things that I'm going to talk about, but a whole host of other experts, one of the things I want you to take away is, what do you really believe as leaders of your organizations, filled with intrapreneurs, what do you really believe is possible? And let that drive how much and how hard you build innovation capability. But as Pete said, for all the boxing fans out there, I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back and use a boxing analogy to frame why conferences like this are so vital and why innovation and why intrapreneurship are absolutely vital to business. So in 1990, everyone believed that this man was indestructible. They believed he was the best, fiercest, almost the most unbeatable boxer at the time. Does anyone know who he fought in 1990? And if anyone gets this, I've got a couple of books, so they can have a free book. Any boxing fans in the room? No. Never mind, I'll just have to keep the books. We've got a huge pile of them. It's getting really difficult to give them away now. In 1990, he fought Buster Douglas. And Buster Douglas was, and you'll see the analogy in a minute, it will become clear, I promise. But Buster Douglas was an absolute outsider. In the boxing world, he was ranked 7th when Tyson was ranked number 1. And in the boxing world, that's an absolute outsider. The odds were something like 40 odd to 1. And no one believed that anything other than Tyson absolutely destroying Buster Douglas was going to be the case. Yet 10 rounds in, Buster Douglas is still there. And then all of a sudden he catches Tyson with an uppercut. And Tyson's rocked. For the first time in his career, he's rocked. And moments later, he's hit again several times, and Tyson hits the canvas. I don't think he said that. No. Tyson hits the canvas. I don't know what you do as an innovation expert when you get heckled with a sneeze. Right? So Tyson hits the canvas, right, and his mouth guard's thrown across the ring. And everyone thinks, okay, this is bad, but he's going to get up. The problem is he didn't get up, and as he goes for his mouth guard to try and get onto his knees and onto his feet, he's counted out. And for the first time in his career, the most aggressive, most, almost unbeatable fighter that has, graced the sport had lost. And in an interview afterwards, he said, and here's the poignant thing, no one knew that Tyson would become one of the world's greatest business philosophers. And he said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So here's the analogy, right? This is clever. 18 years later, the world and the business community metaphorically had its punch in the face. No one would have believed that one of the world's biggest financial institutions would have gone bust. It was almost unbelievable what happened with Lehman Brothers. But what it did, and the real byproduct, the real positive from Lehman Brothers crashing, was that it absolutely fixed and cemented the need for adaptability, for innovation, for entrepreneurship, and for intrapreneurship to become a fundamental part of our organisations. No longer was history and legacy any kind of value in an organisation. What built organisations historically was no guarantee that organisations were going to be successful in the future. So it's been a real learning curve for us and a real absolute, cementing of the fact that we now need to build adaptability, agility, and all those traits that we're all here for and that we all support. Absolutely cemented that fact. The downside is some people didn't get the memo about Lehman Brothers. Yeah? And some people were still complacent, and some people didn't really think that they needed to change. And over the last few years, we've seen some really catastrophic failures of organisations that we all know, and some of them that we loved. And that really, if they'd have embraced innovation and entrepreneurship and adaptability and all those things, they might still be with us today. Companies like Kodak didn't die because people stopped taking photographs. One could argue that more people today take more photographs than ever before. Kodak died because it didn't adapt to why and how people wanted to take photographs. Yeah? And what it's done is it's cemented that need for adaptability and agility, and for organisations to be able to build the capability to move, yeah, and morph and change direction. And I think intrapreneurship and finding those intrapreneurs inside your organisations is one of the key things that's going to help your organisations build a culture of innovation and build that capability to not only survive but to succeed in the world that we now operate in. And I want to share with you a few of the things that I've learned and that I see in the clients that me and my team work with. It's not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Innovation itself is about change. It's about building the capability to create new things, to do new things, to do things differently, to see the world in different ways. It's about building the ability to change and adapt. Does anyone know who else said that? Steve Jobs, way before Jeff Bezos, said, Apple starts with the customer and works its way back to technology. And one of the key things we need to learn from the most successful organisations is we need to move innovation away from product or service. We need to start using innovation and building systems around innovation that not only create great products and great services, but also create great experiences and great business models. And great innovation touches many of those points, not just one or two of them. But fundamentally, we have to start getting better at understanding customers, and we have to start getting better at understanding the world around us. No longer is it enough to be experts in our sector or our field or our market. We have to get we have to become more intelligent about the world. And when you become more intelligent as an organisation, you spot things earlier, you spot better things, you spot trends, you're able to shape the future. Hence the reason why I called my new company the Future Shapers. So we have to start with the customer. That's one of the fundamental beliefs I have around innovation. So how do we make customers feel awesome? Try asking that to a bank, right? And I have done. There's no reason why any organisation can't make all of its customers feel like that. We have to start with the premise that whatever we do, whatever we make as a product, whatever service that we provide, whatever we do as an organisation is fundamentally comes down to how do we make the customer feel when they get that service or when they use or own that product. And building a culture of innovation, which is what myself and my team spend our lives doing, is built around this premise. In order to make a customer feel awesome, we have to make our people feel awesome. We don't get great customer service and great outcomes for customers unless we've built a great place to work, unless we've built a great organisation to work for. Innovation and creativity are what I call a willing contribution. Yeah? We can contractually make people turn up to work, do their job. We can make them comply with certain things as an employee. What we can't contractually force people to do is to be creative, is to come up with ideas, to do things differently, to innovate. Those are things that people willingly contribute to us as leaders and to our organisations. And that means our responsibility as leaders is to build an organisation where people want to contribute that stuff, where they're inspired to contribute that stuff, where they feel as though they can be creative, where they feel as though they can contribute stuff that might be different, might be edgy, might go against the grain. And our responsibility and our job as leaders is to create an environment which promotes that type of behaviour. And that's when we do great things. That's where we get innovation from. Tools and processes and all those things are just stuff we need. Yeah? But creating the right environment that really inspires people to want to use them and want to contribute is the leadership challenge. Here's why it's so important. Generation Z will be with us within 10 years. So 2024, 25, a completely new type of employee, a completely new type of customer, and a completely new type of consumer will be with us within the next 10 years. And big corporate clients aren't yet starting to change to prepare for Generation Z. The way that Generation Z will want to co-create and co-innovate with customers and consumers, the way they'll want to innovate, the way they'll want to work, the way they'll want to collaborate will be fundamentally different than the way people work today. And we need to start building the capability to harness all that talent and that intrapreneurship. We need to start building that into our organisational cultures now. So as leaders of your organisations, here's what I think you can do to really drive intrapreneurs to contribute to innovation in your organisations. One of the first things that I see in a lot of the clients we go into is strategy, and especially innovation strategy, if it exists at all, mind, is very, very poorly communicated. So what I'd encourage every one of you to do is to really think about how you can use the intrapreneurs that you've got in your organisation to help communicate strategy and innovation in layman's terms. How do you enable everyone in your organisation, not just the intrapreneurs, but every employee, how do you enable them and define innovation and strategy so that everyone understands it and everyone can contribute? The more people that you gather and the more people that contribute to innovation, by default, the more innovation you're going to get. We see organisations now tapping into the power of the crowd. And yet most organisations have a great crowd inside that they don't use. Yeah. The next thing I think you can do is understand that leadership is something that doesn't really require a title. Yeah. Being an intrapreneur, just like being a CEO and being a leader, comes with responsibility. So how can you, as leaders of your organisations, really enable intrapreneurs to lead innovation in your organisation? Intrapreneurs are what I call corporately bilingual. They're able to talk and influence upwards, and they're able to talk and influence downwards. They're a fantastic resource for CEOs and leaders to tap into in order to build innovation capability and build that culture of innovation. So how can you, as senior people, really embrace leadership without a title and enable your intrapreneurs to help drive innovation? One of the core things is intrapreneurs are your champions. They're what I call I agents. Now you can use that as intrapreneur agents or innovation agents, but our name for them is I agents. And what they help you to do as senior people and leaders is build what I call the coalition of the willing. How do you gather together groups of people who are really passionate about innovation, who are really passionate about coming up with new solutions, doing things differently, who really want to build an exceptional organisation? Intrapreneurs are your conduit to finding those groups of people and pulling them together so that you build innovation teams within your organisation. And slowly but surely, if you pull those teams together and you pull those groups together, innovation starts to snowball and the momentum around building those capabilities across your culture starts to gain momentum. We all know that innovation takes risk, yeah? The irony is that success actually equals failure when we're talking about innovation. So as CEOs, as leaders in your organisation, how can you use intrapreneurs to drive behaviour that embraces risk, that takes some risk, but that takes what I call smart risk? So we don't want cavalier risk, we don't want people risking things unnecessarily, but we have to build a culture where risk is acceptable, where the right type of risk delivers the right type of outcomes. And intrapreneurs, like entrepreneurs, they're okay with taking risk. They're more comfortable with doing things a little bit different. So how do you as leaders in your organisation tap into those entrepreneurs and start to build the capability for doing things different and taking a little bit more risk? For all the men in the audience, who knows what that is? Hands up. So here's the thing. You're either all shy, you've never ever seen it before, or that some of you are slightly deceitful. So I know what it is. So seeing as none of you put your hands up, I can't actually then say, and how many of you have used one? Yeah. I spoke at a conference about 3 weeks ago, and a woman put her hand up and said, I know what that is, and she kept her hand up when I said, who's used one? Yeah. So who knows the story about Viagra? Would you like to share?
It was first for another type of medication for a heart disease.
Yeah.
Not very effective, but the side effects were quite successful.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Successful. So here's the story. So Pfizer are doing clinical trials for heart disease and high blood pressure and things like that. And it wasn't really having the desired effects and the desired results that they thought it would, but all the test subjects seemed to be slightly stimulated. Lo and behold, Pfizer said, sod the heart problems, we're going to enter the sex industry. And one of the most successful drugs of all time has been created. And the moral of this slide is, if you're doing good stuff, if you're trying new stuff, if you're experimenting, if you're iterating, if you're trying to innovate, and there's activity going on, then even if you don't get the results that you're looking for, you might actually get something else. And sometimes, if serendipity plays its part, sometimes the results you get can be far, far more powerful than anything you expected. But the point is, you have to be doing stuff to get stuff. So here's a few final slides. A good friend of mine is a guy called Cris Beswick, and he named his company Upping Your Elvis. And he named it because when Bono from U2 goes into an organisation and he's trying to gather support for eradicating poverty and debt, he goes into an organisation and he says, who's Elvis around here? And what he means is, Who are the people that stand out? Who are the people that shine a little bit more brightly than others? Who are the people that make things happen? Who are the doers? What he's actually talking about is who are the intrapreneurs in this organisation? So as CEOs and as leaders in your organisation, what I'd really encourage you to do is find out who's a little bit more Elvis in your organisation. Go and seek out those intrapreneurs. Yeah? Give them the sponsorship, the empowerment, the tools, give them the time and the wherewithal to drive innovation in your organisation and help you build a culture of innovation in your organisations. In essence, find people and unleash the intrapreneurs inside your organisation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been great to talk to you. That's enough from me. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.